Season of the Risen is coming to a close, and it's been a pretty good season, considering normally the seasons that release with major expansions tend to be rather lacklustre. Well, Season of the Risen appears to have bucked that trend, delivering on story, activities and loot, and today I'm going to be looking back at Season of the Risen, looking at the highs and the lows and what Bungie can improve in the future for seasonal content. Well, if you're new around here or find this useful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for all the latest Destiny 2 content and turn on notifications by hitting that bell. And roughly 98% of viewers who watch This Week in Video Games aren't subscribed, so subscribe today and never miss an update. Well, today I'm going to be looking back at the story, the activities, weapons, armor, events, how Risen is compared to other seasons, plus what Bungie could do to improve in the future. But before we jump in, I'd love to hear what you thought of Season of the Risen, what you liked, what you'd improve, plus what you'd score it out of 10. Well, without further delay, let's dive into the story. Well, seasons that arrive with a major expansion always tend to have a tricky task, given the main focus of the audience is normally on the campaign. I think Bungie did a really good job with Season of the Risen, as the seasonal story was interweaved with the story of the Witch Queen. So in terms of a brief summary of the story, we're working with the Cabal to study Hive Lightbearers, to find out more about their plans now that they've attained the light through Savathûn. The main focal point of the season from a character development point of view has been Crow, Lord Saladin and Keitel. Now, Crow doesn't like the fact that we're studying the Hive Lightbearers, but Saladin insists, sometimes in war, you got to do what needs to be done. In one of the narrative highlights of the season, we see a cutscene looking back at Lord Saladin's past. Here, we see Saladin having mercy for a young thief, who grows up and turns out to be a killer. Saladin swore he'd never make that same mistake again, and to quote Saladin, the right path isn't always easy to find, the only question is whether you're strong enough to walk it. Good advice from our resident Iron Lord there, and we also had a new area in the helm, built at the back, where Crow normally stands, and this is where the Scions sit in their equipment, and they explore the mines of the Hive. Well, Crow took it upon himself to unplug one of the Scions mid-mind exercise, and the machine broke and killed that Scion. Well, Keitel, as you can imagine, didn't take the news very well and wanted revenge on Crow immediately, you know, a life for a life. However, at the last moment, Lord Saladin stepped in and offered up his life, and rather than end his life, Keitel spared him and assigned Lord Saladin as Bracchus Forge to the Cabal. Saladin would leave behind his axe, his iron medallion, plus he would promise he'd be back with a revamped Iron Banner next season. Well, the story content this season was much shorter than before, although we've just come off the back of a very long season with Season of the Lost, due to the delay of the Witch Queen. Normally, we'd get around 10 weeks of story. This time, we only had about 4, I think. That's not surprising, considering the season was delivered alongside the Witch Queen expansion. You know, overall, I really like the story developments with Crow, Saladin, Keitel. I felt we got to know them even better. Yeah, we have spent a lot of time with Crow since he returned in Season of the Hunt, when Beyond Light first came out, and it looks like Bungie is going to continue building up his character. Keitel got some interesting story developments this season, flirting with Zavala quite a lot, which was a little bit weird, and there's also some friction in the Cabal ranks, with some Cabal defecting to Callus, who appears to be a disciple of the Witness, and perhaps on his way back to our solar system. Well, Lord Saladin's exit from the tower was a big surprise, with the Iron Lord stepping in to save Crow. You know, Crow is losing his mentor once again. First time it was Osiris, now it's Saladin, and he's really going to need someone to keep him on the straight and narrow. Saladin seems to be doing just fine in the Cabal ranks though, already getting promoted, and starting his own Iron Banner style tournament in there with the Cabal, and he's now known as Valus Forge, since the Cabal kept challenging him, and he'd split them in half with his Iron Axe. Now overall, really good story, a little bit shorter than we were used to, but I would give it an 8 out of 10. Well, next up, let's have a look at the activities. The main activity this season was the PsyOps Battleground activity, and as far as these match-made activities go, I thought it was a pretty good effort. So we had 3 variants released week over week. We had different variations of Lucent Hive to fight at the end, and then we had the battle with the Echo of Savathûn. That was pretty good fun. It's better than the Astral Alignment activity from Season of the Lost, plus we had the mechanic of the Synaptic Spear. Another activity this season was the Vox Obscura exotic mission on Mars. It was good to see the Destiny 1 Mars come back, but the mission didn't really make me want to come back week over week and keep playing. I think I only did it a few times and then never returned to it. I think Bungie set the bar pretty high with previous seasons, especially in Season of the Lost, with the Shattered Realm activity. A huge area, exploration, mixed with loads of secrets and triumphs. It may be that I didn't engage much with the activity itself, and possibly there was much more for me to discover in the Vox Obscura mission. However, I didn't really feel that pull to come back. So in another case of the activities feeling a little bit light when you judge the Season of the Risen on its own merits, but you do have to remember once again, so it did launch alongside one of the best expansions in Destiny 2, but overall I would give the activities a 7 out of 10. Well, next up we got the weapons, and there were a whole bunch of weapons added this season, much that came with the Witch Queen, and we had a shake-up to the world loot pool for the first time in a very, very long time. Well, let's focus on the legendary weapons from Risen itself. So we got the PsyOps Battlegrounds weapons, and they were pretty good. If I had to pick a few favourites, I'd say Peace of Mind is very good. That's the Pulse Rifle. And the Sweet Sorrow Auto Rifle, also under your skin. That is a good energy combat bow. So we also had a couple of exotics this season, including the Dead Messenger. That's the Wave Frame Energy Grenade Launcher. We also had the Grand Overture, a new Cabal-style machine gun. So it may have been a season too early for a new machine gun, given the buff they're going to get next season. I think Grand Overture may be missing that buff. I did enjoy Grand Overture much more than Dead Messenger. Haven't really played with Dead Messenger that much after I did the weapon review. Well, Nightfall weapons this time were from Destiny 2, which was quite surprising to be honest. We got the Duty Bound and the Silicon Neuroma. That felt like a little bit of a regression for me from the Destiny 1 weapons that we've been used to. So I've been playing long enough to still have versions of those previous weapons, so they didn't really get me excited to run the Nightfalls and get them again. Playlist weapons on the other hand were pretty good, with the Fortissimo shotgun, that was probably my favourite, and then Iron Banner had a standout weapon with the Razor's Edge, that was a Void Power Sword. Overall, I thought the seasonal weapons were pretty good, however the exotics and the Nightfall weapons were a little bit of a letdown. Overall, I'd give the weapons 7 out of 10. Well, next up, let's have a look at the events. So this season we had Guardian Games. I unfortunately missed the first 2 weeks of Guardian Games, so I didn't really get to engage properly in the class-based competition. In terms of what happened in-game, I thought the tower looked pretty good, the armour was great, and the new Titan submachine gun was very cool indeed. The activity had a strike scoring from Destiny 1 feel to it, and you also had matchmaking on the 1550 Nightfalls. So these are quality of life updates that should be rolled into the main Vanguard operations and that playlist in the future. Guardian Games always descends into the rigged conversation on social media, which to be honest is just massively tiring. And the event also tends to come at a time when the Destiny community is most frustrated and bored with the content, so I think some of that frustration boils over onto social media and through the feedback channels. However, overall, I'm mostly positive on the event, and I reckon I give it an 8 out of 10. Well, next up, let's have a look at how does this season compare to other seasons. So when comparing this one to other seasons Bungie's released in Destiny 2, I don't really think it's up there with the best of them. For example, Season of the Chosen, Opulence and Dawn, those are 3 that I've picked out as some of the best. They stand out as some of the best seasonal content that Bungie has put out, and it's not really fair to judge Risen against these full seasons, given it arrived alongside Witch Queen. Comparing Risen to Undying and Hunt, which arrived with the launch of Shadowkeep and Beyond Light, then I would say Season of the Risen is probably the best season we've had that released alongside a major expansion. Bungie managed to make it feel part of the story, the activities were good fun, and the loot was rewarding. We didn't get any game-changing lore, like in Season of the Dawn, or any groundbreaking activities like the Menagerie from the Season of Opulence, but we did get a coherent season with interesting story beats that complemented the expansion's release. Well, finally, what could Bungie improve? So in terms of improvements, I like the format of the Shattered Realm and the week-over-week discovery aspect of that, and then comparing it to this season, our Vox Obscura mission. So I don't think Vox Obscura really lived up to that high bar set by Shattered Realm. Yes, they are different activities, I realise that, but I do personally prefer the Shattered Realm activity. It's something like the Glykon mission, which was found on the Tangled Shore. That was one of the most successful dungeon-like experiences in Destiny 2. I know it wasn't a dungeon itself, it was just an exotic mission, but I thought it was really, really good. I'd love to see more of that. I love the horror element of the Glykon mission, thought it was excellent. And hopefully we'll see more of that, or that being reprised in the future. The match-made three-person activities do feel like they're getting old now, and it would be good to see Bungie mixing up the formula just a little bit. So I think we've been doing these now for many, many seasons, and PsyOps Battlegrounds actually was a good variant, much better than Astro Alignment. I would say not as good as Contact or the one found in Season of the Splicer. I can't remember its now. I think it was called Override, actually, reaching into the back of my brain there. Override and Contact, for me, they were better match-made three-person activities. You know, I'd prefer to see Destiny 1 weapons come back into the rotation rather than Destiny 2 weapons, or even better, new weapons and designs. You know, I don't really like seeing Destiny 2 weapons being reprised already. Well, I suppose they are about 5 years old now, but really, you know, come on, let's either go back to Destiny 1 at a minimum, and if we're going to raise that bar, I would like to see new weapons designed. Events appear to be changing for the better, with Bungie announcing some major changes to the event model last week, and then this week at Bungie Update. So overall, with Season of the Risen, I would say good effort, and a massive improvement over the seasons that have been released with other expansions. Overall, I would give the season a 7.5 out of 10. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. What did you think of the weapons, the story, the activities? I'd love to hear what you think, and if you had to give it a score, what would you give it? Well, that is it for my review of Season of the Risen, and tomorrow we're going to jump into Season of Redacted. We don't know much about it yet, but I'm really, really excited to jump in. Loads of videos on the channel speculating what we're going to get tomorrow, so do check those out. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching, and for more Destiny 2 content like this, hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. Or you can check me out on Twitter at TWIVG Podcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.